We don't yet know much that is concrete about Andy Burnham's plans and policies after he assumes office as Prime Minister on Monday. But one thing we can say is that he is set to give the green light for new North Sea oil and gas drilling as part of a spate of policy announcements to mark the beginning of his premiership next week. The question of whether to give the go-ahead to North Sea drilling has become central to the future direction of the Labour Party, with the soft left and allies of current Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, arguing the move is a backward step in the country's push for an energy transition. But proponents for the policy argue that the new drilling is crucial for energy security and would prevent major job losses. Well, joining us to discuss all is Angela Light, former Chief Executive of Energy UK and former Conservative MP. Good afternoon, Angela.
Hey, good afternoon.
Thanks so much for being here, Angela. Are you surprised, first of all, that Andy Burnham has made this announcement before taking office? He hasn't put out many concrete plans, and this seems to be quite a stake in the ground, doesn't it?
Yes, well, it does. But it's a bit like a comment that was made earlier, you made about Robert Peston, that he didn't understand the strength of the views about Brexit outside, in the north of England, outside London and the southeast. It's exactly the same with oil and gas drilling in the North Sea. We know that we've got to bring in oil and gas, ship in oil and gas for some time. The country's going to be dependent on some time. So why on earth don't we carry on using our North Sea in preference to imports? And that view is a very strongly held one in the Midlands and the north of England. And it seems to me that the issue about, we shouldn't do it, sends the wrong signal and all that sort of thing is simply almost a sort of policy think tank wants in the southeast. It is an illogical argument, dare I say.
So do you think it's another sign of the kind of metropolitan elite, which the Milibands, both of them, have been accused of being part of for a very long time?
Well, I think that is possibly the case. I mean, I don't really want to point a finger and say it's his fault or anything like that. But undoubtedly it is the case that if you've worked in the commercial world, if you've been outside, if you've lived out and worked outside London, which is where the majority, after all, of the country lives, then you can see that there is a practicality issue here. And it is clearly far more practical to use what you've got than to import. If you use what you've got, then it creates jobs. You've got the taxation income comes in there, and you have a greater degree of security and of control. It's not actually going to alter much our gas price if we do it like that. What alters the price that you pay for your energy, that is you either domestic or you if you are in the business world, is removing some of these additional environmental charges off the bill. So I would say to Andy Burnham, yes, let's carry on drilling in the North Sea. We know it's a declining basin, but at the same time, if you look at Norway, who's connected to the North Sea as well, they're making a much better fist of that decline than we are here. So let's copy Norway, carry on drilling in the North Sea. Let's be a master of our own destiny there. Let's wind that down as we've got new and secure sources of energy, which is nuclear, and let's get that pricing right, and then we may have an energy policy that we can all live with.
So I think I understand rightly saying that there not going to be a huge discernible impact, certainly not in the short term, for consumers and their bills, but it might protect us from global energy shocks much better in the short term and the long term.
Well, it will do. I mean, one of the things that does help us at the moment is we do pull about 30% of our gas out of the North Sea. We do run some of our power stations on gas. So, clearly we are exposed to shocks, but we're not exposed as much as, for example, Germany was. It wasn't connected to some of their own supply. We can take more of that supply out of the North Sea than we do at the moment. Then we're going to protect ourselves more and more from the surprises that can occur, the wars, if you like, the shocks, the changes in that the global scenarios, which are increasingly getting more unstable. We will protect ourselves from that. The pricing, a lot of the pricing, though, how much you, me, and the business down the road is going to pay for its electricity, that is dependent much more on what the government also decides it's going to do in terms of added charges on your bill. After all, if you look at your domestic energy bill, your combined gas and electricity bill right now, you'll find that actually gas and electricity is less than 50% of the bill, which gives you some example of all the other things you're paying for. Some you need, like the wires and the pipes, of course, but some are optional policy costs that have been placed on that bill by central government. So I'm saying two things. One gives us security, and the other bring the price down. Do them both, Andy Burnham, and you'll do the country's economy a favour.
Angela, another argument in favour of the new drilling is to protect jobs in the energy sector. How many jobs, do we know how many jobs this would actually create or protect? And is there also a kind of political angle of that? Is it a way of facing down attacks from Reform and the right in terms of protecting British jobs without actually being protectionist?
Well, actually, I don't think that this is a right versus left or a one party versus another party argument. No, I don't have the figures in front of me at the moment of what the job losses are. But what I do know is you've got the unions and you've got business all on the same side. That does not happen often. And they're on the same side saying that let's do this transition in a steadier and carefully thought way. Because yes, we are in this country creating new jobs, particularly with wind, but also with solar. The wind being offshore seems to be one of the biggest offshore wind farms now in the world are those in the UK waters. So let's preserve those jobs and we can develop those jobs, but don't switch off at the same time our existing gas and oil drilling coming out of the North Sea. Let's have both sets of jobs. It shouldn't be an either or. And if you get your planning right, if you get your timetables right, if you remove sort of emotion and put into the argument common sense, I think that we will have a much better energy programme than we do at the moment.
We're getting some texts here, Karen, as I'm talking to you, accusing us of climate denial and arguing that more jobs could be created by fully rolling out renewable energy. I mean, aside from the fact that, obviously there is a very strong lobby against drilling and pro-renewables, is that going to be a problem for Andy Burnham too? Is he going to lose support from the left by continuing with this policy of drilling?
Yeah, well, let me just pick the two things up. First of all, climate denial. This is nothing about climate denial. What it is it's about saying, instead of importing, let's use what we've got locally. Because everybody is well aware, irrespective of which side of the argument you may be on, in respect of the net zeros and climate and all the rest of it, we all know that for a long period of time, there will be an ongoing requirement for oil and gas. So it's not about being a climate denier. In respect of the whole job argument, it's also not about saying we don't want renewables. You can have both. The whole thing means you're going to have both. After all, renewables are intermittent. So when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, you're going to have to rely on something, aren't we, in this country?
Absolutely.
For the purposes of generating electricity, and indeed so many of our homes are still fired by gas. So this is, as I say, this is a common sense, logical process, and we need to of change. We need to take it in a common sense way. We need to preserve our energy security. We need to do it at a price that people can afford. We need to do it steadily, and we shouldn't be pitting, oil and gas or renewables. It's both together. Where we are pitting is saying, let's do something locally, use our own local resources rather than importing, as that will give us a much greater security.
Well, President Trump, Andrew, before I let you go, he's also expressed his anger with the Miliband agenda, to not open new drilling previously. Do you think transatlantic relations have factored into Burnham's thinking on this?
Well, they might have, they might not have. I mean, who's to know what Trump thinks? Sometimes you wonder whether he is thinking. But Trump seems to have a lovely time in the middle of the night on whatever his version of X is called, I've forgotten, or Twitter or whatever.
Truth Social.
There you go. Pumping out opinions on what everybody else should be doing, whilst his own ratings in the polls in the US seem to fall and fall and fall, and he doesn't know what to do about the war he started with Iran. So do I think that Trump is a world figure? Of course he is. Is America a huge economy? It is. Do you need to listen to what we say? Yes, I do. But honestly, I don't really think that one should pay, should I say, too much attention at Trump's comments on internal UK matters.
Fair enough. Thank you, Angela. Might I just say, before I let you go, I very much enjoyed your beautiful cat, which joined our conversation at one point during the conversation. I didn't want to stop you mid-flow to admire your cat, but she's beautiful, or he's beautiful. Don't want to misgender.
It's a she, and she's 1 year old today, and she loves getting involved.
She's welcome back anytime, Angela, as are you. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Angela. That's Angela Knight, former Chief Executive of Energy UK and former Conservative MP.